What's up, Falcon fans and non-Falcon fans? On today's episode of Atlanta Falcons 2023 Depth Chart Review, Part 6, the defensive edition now. So we're going to start out with the cornerback selection because the Atlanta Falcons and the Detroit Lions both made a trade with each other where we gave up our 5th round pick to get Jeff Okudah from them. And so if you guys like this type of content, let me know by hitting that like button. It helps out your boy so much. And if you want to share this video with your friends and foe, please do so. And if you guys want to hit that dislike button, please do so. It won't hurt your boy's feelings. Well, maybe just a little bit. But before we get started, please also hit that subscribe button because it helps out with this channel so much. And thank you for making this empire grow forevermore. So now let's dive into the video. We have AJ Terrell, starting quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons. So we drafted AJ back in 2020 in the first round with the 16th overall pick. So we signed him to a 4-year deal worth $14 million. So we all know that last year was his fantastic year where he should have been an all-pro, first string, not second string. He should have been into the Pro Bowl as well, but he did not, so he got jaded. That's unfortunate because last year he was targeted 63 times. He only allowed 27 receptions and he only gave up 280 yards. And also, he only allowed 2 touchdowns and had 15 pass-up breakups. So then this year, he kind of got a little bit banged up here, where the opponents targeted him 77 times. Unfortunately, he did allow 43 receptions that was giving up a grand total of 547 yards. And then he did give up 6 touchdowns with 10 pass breakups. So that was a huge dip. But there's a lot of factors that go into that where if you're not pressuring the quarterback, you're giving the quarterback a little bit more time to develop, and then that means you're giving the wide receiver more opportunities to get wide open, and then that also means that AJ Terrell gets a little bit more tired than usual because he's not getting help at the front 4. But besides that, now in the beginning of the season, he didn't look that great. Now he did give up 2 touchdowns against the Saints. He also had trouble containing DK Metcalf and, of course, Mike Evans. And then, Brandon Ayuk were kind of a troublemaker for him. But besides week 1 through week 8, they were pretty bad. But in week 11 through week 17, he definitely improved on all cylinders. So I'm not really too much concerned about that because, I had a feeling when you're having a great year, you're going to slump a little bit. But besides that, he did win some incredible individual matches like DJ Moore, where we all know DJ Moore just make fools out of us. And then, Amari Cooper, where he was targeted 6 times, only caught 2 receptions for 14 yards. So that wasn't that bad. And then you got Terry McLaurin, who was targeted 4 times, only caught 2 receptions for 4 yards. So that's not that bad. So let's carry on with the next guy. Now, let's talk about the right side of the starting back corner position, and that is Casey Hayward. So back in March the 17th, 2022, we signed him on a 2-year contract worth $11 million last free agency. Unfortunately for him, he was placed on injury reserve on October the 18th, 2022 after suffering a shoulder injury in week 6. So he only got to play in 6 games, and total of 17 total tackles, 14 solo, 3 assists, no sacks, no forced fumbles, 1 interception, but 3 pass deflections. And what's very interesting to me is that a lot of people don't want him. They think he's too old, they think the contract is terrible, and they think he's terrible. But in reality, he wasn't that terrible when he was on the field. Opponents target him 32 times. He only allowed 19 receptions with a grand total of 244 yards. And he only allowed 1 touchdown. But isn't that really that bad? I don't really think so. I think he did a pretty good job when he was on the field. But I will admit that he had problems with only 2 players. Michael Thomas, that was targeted 5 times, only caught 3 receptions for 82 yards. And Tyler Lockett, where he was targeted 7 times, but caught all 7 of those for a grand total of 87 yards. So those were his 2 worst games. But outside of those 2 worst games, he did a pretty good job in getting against Donovan Peoples-Jones, Allen Robinson, Scotty Miller, and Deebo Samuel, where they did not get over 40 yards per reception and for the entire game when he was covering them. So I thought he handled himself well. Besides those 2 players, he did a pretty good job in man-to-man coverage, and I'm really hoping that he can come back injury prone free and play all 17 games for the Falcons, and hopefully he can tell people that, yeah, he might be old and and pruny, but he still got the God hands. So let's hope for the best for this young man, or old man in this case. So let's check out the other rest of the cornerbacks. So now let's talk about the second string cornerbacks and the third string cornerbacks. So we have first Darren Hall, who was drafted back in 2021 in the 4th round with the 108th pick overall. And we signed him to a 4-year contract worth $4 million. And what do I think about him? He's a pretty solid piece. There's no complaints I've seen. Yes, he gets beat a little bit, but also he wins his individual matchups. There's nothing really to complain. He handles his business when it comes to the third wide receivers and sometimes the tight ends. I think he does an excellent job, so there's really no complaints in my opinion. If you want to check out my highlights about him, please do so. And then we got Dylan Mabin and Jamal Peters. They were both practice squad members, and I think they're going to continue with practice squad members. I don't think they really contribute on this 53-man roster, mostly for depth piece at the practice squad, so I really have nothing else to say about them, but hopefully they will be ballers at some point and maybe contribute when we need to, when our corners get injured. But besides that, now let's talk about the starting nickel role. And that would be D. Alfred, who is a dog, a beast for this Falcons team. Now, he is listed as an undrafted free agent back in 2021, but he did play arena football with the Blue Bombers back in 2020 through 2021, and then we signed him on 2022. We all know him for his heroic game against the Cleveland Browns, where he clinched that sealed interception for us for the win. He did some other great stuff against the Buccaneers. He handled his business when he was targeted. Maybe he got beat a little bit, but I'm not really too concerned. He was playing against big boy, big dogs, and big tanks. For a guy his size who is 5'11", yeah, I'm very impressed with him, and I think this is a great pickup for us. Hardly any negatives I can really point out, mostly all positive. And now let's continue with Mike Hughes. Now I think he's going to be like a special nickel package developer type of corner. If he is counted on starting, he has some starting roles, so I'm not that worried about. Now injuries obviously is concerned with everybody that steps on the field, but for me, I think this was a solid pickup. And so now let's talk about John Reed. I think that's how you say your boy's name. Unfortunately, I'm reading practice squad member, but hopefully he can contribute in some type of form or way. So now let's talk about this guy. And that, my friends, is Cornell Armstrong, who we just re-signed on a 1-year contract worth $1 million. Now, I know a lot of people were kind of disrespecting my boy for saying he was getting burned a lot and, you know, he's not good and why did we sign him back? Well, I honestly thought he did his fantastic business when he had to step up as a true number 1 corner, where he was never proven, you know, when he was in the NFL. So he was targeted 41 times, but he only allowed 25 receptions for only 285. Only gave up 2 touchdowns with 7 pass breakups. So that's pretty good for a guy that a lot of people were saying he was bad. Now, the reason why a lot of people thought he was getting burned like toast, because in week 7 and week 8, so back-to-back, where he was going against T. Higgins, who is a baller, and Terrence Marshall, who can be a baller. So when against T. Higgins, he only allowed 6 receptions out of 10 with 88 total yards, right? And for Marshall, he was targeted 7 times, but only caught 3 for 72 yards. But outside of that, when he was going against Josh Palmer, Dennett Pennis, Rashawn Sheed, Demarcus Robertson, AJ Green, and Brenshawn Perriman, he didn't allow them to get over 50 yards in the entire game. So for that guy, for not getting a lot of experience in the NFL, he handled his business pretty great. I don't care what you guys say, oh, that's not true competition. No, you got to go compete who you got to go face. Doesn't matter who they are. You can't just select, yeah, I want that guy, I want that guy. No, I don't want that guy. No, you know, kind of like swipe left or right, you know, right type of situation. No, he can only control what is in front of him, and how he performed, I thought he did a pretty outstanding job. Now let's talk about Matt Hankins and Gavilan Giltree, where I think both of them are going to eventually end up in practice squad members. Hopefully I'm wrong, because I think Gavilan showed a lot of potential in his combine 2 years ago when the Jets took him. So I don't know what kind of happened where he didn't quite get the concept of the defense scheme over there, but hopefully that can change here, because I do believe he has extreme Arcanine speed. But besides that, they're probably going to be cut and then re-signed as practice squad members. But now let's talk about the last cornerback members for the Atlanta Falcons we got in this new trade from the Detroit Lions. So at the very beginning, I was pretty pissed off that the Atlanta Falcons traded a 5th round pick for Jeff Okudah. Now, I know a lot of Falcon fans defended this pick when I did my community post on it. And you know what? I'm thankful that you guys feel so comfortable enough to give yourself your own opinion, even though it might not align with mine, and that's fine. That's what this great Falcon organization is all about, and you fans, where we might not meet eye to eye in a lot of way how we deal with the Atlanta Falcons reaching the goal to win a Super Bowl, to clutch that milk and honey taste, and that's fine. But what I really truly love about you guys, you know, you weren't very disrespectful, and hopefully I wasn't very disrespectful too as well. Maybe here or there, you know, we kind of got a little chatty, but at the end of the day, we see eye to eye. We feel each other's pain. We bleed the same blood, and that's Falcon blood. You guys, all of you guys are my brothers in this war, okay? So, but I did have a little bit concerns, and then I kind of mentioned that to a couple of you guys that there has to be a reason why the Lions, who drafted him 3rd overall back 2 years ago, just decided to get rid of him that easily. Regardless of the situation the Lions are in, you don't give up a 3rd overall pick to anybody. You try to keep him in your building. So that told me there's something very wrong with either Okudah or with the organization that doesn't trust him. But even still, let's take a look at this year. Now, I know a lot of people were saying that this was his best year because he only got injured once. And the injury bug does not concern me because at the end of the day, like I said previously, everybody will get injured at some point in their career. Or sometimes they're very lucky where they hardly ever get injured, and that's good. So, on that side note, he was targeted 73 times. He only allowed 41 receptions. That was a grand total of 631, and only allowed 1 touchdown, but he did have a pass-up breakup with 7 of those. So, my biggest concern was that in 3 games, he allowed over 100 yards. So that was against the Seattle Seahawks in Week 4 against DK Metcalf, where Metcalf was targeted 6 times, caught 5 of those for 133 yards. And now let's talk about Week 9 against the Green Bay Packers versus Alan Lazard, who was targeted 7 times, caught 5 of those for 112. And then against Week 15 against the New York Jets, Garrett Wilson, the rookie, he was targeted 13 times, caught 5, but for 105 receiving yards. But I will give him credit where credit is due, because in Week 3 against the Minnesota Vikings, he was going against Justin Jefferson, who's probably one of the best young wide receivers in the game right today. He was targeted 7 times, caught 4 of those for 30 yards. Now, in Week 13 against the Jacksonville Jaguars, he was going against Zay Jones, and he was targeted 8 times, but only caught 2 receptions for 13 yards, and that was his best game. So I will admit, I personally jumped the gun. You know, my emotions got the better of me because of my previous acknowledgement of what he brought to the table a year ago, and his rookie year, they weren't so kind to him, and that was my fault. I was just not thinking straight, but thankfully that you guys were, and I really appreciate you guys from the bottom of my heart. So, is this a great pickup? Yeah, I actually was watching a lot of Lion games, not all of them, but whenever he was in coverage for like 5 hours when I was posting this, and I'm actually very impressed. I think this was a steal for us. I give it a B+. Obviously, he won't be the starting role for us, so that makes it a lot better because he knows how to handle guys. He has the talent. Maybe he just wasn't fit in the right position, and so for this, I thought this was a great pickup. So on that note, if you guys lasted this long at the very end, thank you guys for so much for taking your own personal time to watch this type of content. And thank you guys for helping supporting this channel like always. And what do Falcons do? Rise up. Until the next episode, show love and peace to the world, and peace.